What if I told you that one of cinema's greatest adventure films almost never happened, nearly killed its lead actor, and took 2 decades of obsession to bring to life? The Man Who Would Be King is surrounded by stories as wild as the film itself, from cursed productions to death-defying stunts that would never be allowed today. Some of these facts will change how you see this classic forever. If you're into classic cinema and behind-the-scenes stories that sound too crazy to be true, hit that subscribe button because we're diving deep into Hollywood history you won't find anywhere else. Number 20. The ending shocked audiences. The final moments of this film remain burned into viewers' minds decades later. When Peachy Carnahan returns from his journey, he's carrying something that makes everyone in the room recoil in horror. It's the severed, mummified head of his best friend Daniel Draveau, preserved as a grim trophy by the tribesmen who killed him. The scene is played with such haunting sincerity by Michael Caine that audiences sat in stunned silence when the film first premiered. This wasn't your typical Hollywood ending where heroes ride off into the sunset. Huston wanted to honor Kipling's dark, cautionary tale about imperialism and hubris, and he succeeded in creating one of the most chilling final images in adventure cinema. The contrast between the film's earlier swagger and this devastating conclusion left viewers shaken, proving that not all journeys end in glory. Some end in madness, betrayal, and a severed head rolling across a newspaper editor's desk. But the haunting ending wasn't the only shocking element of this production. Number 19. Sean Connery nearly died during filming. Picture this. You're suspended hundreds of feet above a rocky gorge, the camera rolling, when suddenly the rope keeping you alive snaps. That's exactly what happened to Sean Connery during the infamous bridge collapse sequence. The safety line that was supposed to protect him failed completely, and for a terrifying moment, one of the world's biggest movie stars was seconds away from plummeting to his death. Connery managed to grab onto part of the structure and pull himself to safety, but the crew was absolutely horrified. What makes this even more insane is that after a brief break, Huston convinced him to go right back and finish the scene. This wasn't CGI or clever camera tricks. This was real danger, real stunts, and real near-death experiences captured on film. The bridge scene you see in the movie carries genuine terror because the actors were genuinely terrified. And Connery's brush with death was just one of many dangers the cast faced. Number 18. Huston's directing style was ruthless. John Huston didn't believe in coddling his actors. He had a philosophy that bordered on madness. If you weren't genuinely afraid for your life, you weren't giving an authentic performance. He reportedly told Connery and Caine point blank that they needed to feel real danger to capture the spirit of these soldiers of fortune. This wasn't a director who yelled cut at the first sign of trouble. He pushed through until he got what he wanted. The cast and crew have shared stories about Huston's unflinching approach to filmmaking. He wanted dust, sweat, exhaustion, and fear to be real on camera, not acted. This meant long days in brutal heat, demanding physical scenes without breaks, and an atmosphere where complaining simply wasn't tolerated. Some called him a genius, others called him reckless, but everyone agreed that his methods produced something extraordinary on screen. Yet Huston's obsession with this film went back much further than anyone realized. Number 17. John Huston wanted to make it for over 20 years. Huston first discovered Rudyard Kipling's story back in the 1950s and became completely obsessed with adapting it. This wasn't a project he casually considered. It consumed him for 2 full decades. Through career ups and downs, through other films and failures, he never let go of his vision for The Man Who Would Be King. Every time he tried to get it made, something fell through. Studios weren't interested, actors dropped out, or the money disappeared. 20 years is an entire generation. Think about everything that changed in cinema between the 1950s and 1970s. Huston watched the golden age of Hollywood crumble, saw the rise of New Hollywood, and witnessed countless trends come and go. Through it all, he kept fighting for this one story. That kind of dedication borders on madness, but it's also what separates true artists from people who just make movies for a paycheck. His persistence meant he had to consider many different versions of the film. Number 16. The original cast was supposed to be legends. Imagine The Man Who Would Be King starring Clark Gable and Humphrey Bogart. That was Huston's dream team in the 1950s when he first tried to get the film made. Gable and Bogart were 2 of the biggest names in Hollywood, perfect for playing these charming, reckless soldiers who con their way into kingship. The chemistry would have been electric, and the film would have been an instant classic. But fate had other plans. Humphrey Bogart passed away in 1957 from cancer, and with him died that version of the film. Gable wasn't interested in doing it without his friend, and the project collapsed before a single frame was shot. Huston was devastated but refused to give up on the story, so he tried again with a new generation of actors. Number 15. Later, Huston tried with Brando and Newman. Fast forward to the 1960s, and Huston had his sights set on the 2 biggest rebels in Hollywood, Marlon Brando and Paul Newman. Both were at the peak of their powers, known for bringing intensity and unpredictability to every role. Brando as the ambitious Daniel Draveau and Newman as the loyal Peachy Carnahan could have created an entirely different kind of film, grittier, more method, more psychologically complex. Brando initially showed interest but eventually dropped out, as he often did with projects that required long shoots in difficult locations. Newman, always the professional, suggested something that changed everything. Why not cast two British actors instead? After all, the characters were British soldiers, and authenticity might serve the story better than star power. That suggestion led Huston directly to Sean Connery and Michael Caine, and the rest is history. And for one of those actors, landing this role meant everything. Number 14. It was Michael Caine's dream role. Michael Caine has worked with everyone from Christopher Nolan to Woody Allen, played Alfred in the Batman trilogy, and won 2 Academy Awards. Yet when asked about his favorite film, he doesn't hesitate. The Man Who Would Be King. He's called it the best adventure movie I ever worked on, and has spoken about it with genuine affection in countless interviews. For Caine, this wasn't just another paycheck. It was the role he'd been waiting his entire career to play. There's something about Peachy Carnahan that resonated deeply with Caine. Maybe it was the loyalty, the working-class swagger, or the tragic arc of a man who watches his best friend destroyed by ambition. Whatever it was, Caine poured everything into the performance. You can see it in every scene, the easy chemistry with Connery, the humor, and then that devastating final sequence where he delivers Daniel's head. It's masterclass acting. Connery felt the same way about his role. Number 13. Sean Connery called it the best role of my career. This is the man who played James Bond, the man who became a global icon as 007, and yet Sean Connery considered Daniel Draveau his finest performance. That's not a casual statement. It's a complete rejection of the role that made him famous. Connery always felt somewhat trapped by Bond, typecast as the suave spy when he wanted to show his range. Daniel Draveau gave him that chance. Draveau is charismatic but flawed, brave but delusional, loyal but ultimately consumed by his own ego. It's a meaty, complex character that required Connery to be funny, commanding, vulnerable, and terrifying, sometimes all in the same scene. He rose to the challenge brilliantly, and critics agreed that this was Connery finally unleashed as a serious dramatic actor. The film had another unique casting choice that added extra depth. Number 12. Caine's wife plays his on-screen wife. Here's a detail most viewers miss. The woman who plays Roxanne, Peachy's love interest in the film, is Shakira Caine, Michael Caine's actual wife in real life. She only appears briefly, but her presence adds an interesting layer to those scenes. Watching the film knowing this, you can see genuine affection in their interactions that probably couldn't have been manufactured with a stranger. Shakira wasn't an experienced actress, but Huston loved the idea of using her. It fit with his overall philosophy of capturing authentic moments on camera rather than relying purely on acting. The tenderness between Peachy and Roxanne feels real because, in a way, it was real. But authenticity came at a cost throughout this production. Number 11. The movie was filmed in Morocco, not India. The story is set in Kafiristan, a remote region of Afghanistan, but Huston couldn't shoot there even if he wanted to. The political situation in South Asia during the mid-1970s made filming there impossible. Too dangerous, too unstable, too complicated logistically. So Huston looked for somewhere that could double for the harsh, mountainous terrain of the region, and he found it in Morocco. Morocco became Hollywood's favorite stand-in for exotic locations, and for good reason. The country offered incredible landscapes, cooperative government support for film productions, and local crews experienced in working with international filmmakers. The Atlas Mountains provided the perfect backdrop for the story's treacherous journeys in remote kingdoms. To this day, most viewers have no idea they're looking at North Africa instead of Central Asia, a testament to Huston's location scouting and the cinematography. Huston's commitment to authenticity extended to every detail. Number 10. The costumes were authentic military gear. The British Army uniforms worn by Connery and Caine throughout the film weren't costumes made by a Hollywood wardrobe department, they were the real thing. Huston insisted on borrowing actual 19th-century military outfits from museums and private collectors. These were uniforms that real soldiers had worn over a century earlier, complete with authentic fabrics, buttons, and insignia. Why go to such lengths? Because Huston believed audiences could subconsciously tell the difference between authentic and fake. The weight, the wear, the way the fabric moved, all of it contributed to making Connery and Caine look like genuine soldiers of the British Empire rather than actors playing dress-up. It's the kind of obsessive attention to detail that separates good films from great ones. This dedication to realism extended to the extras as well. Number 9. Huston used real tribesmen as extras. The dozens of tribesmen you see throughout the film weren't professional actors or extras from a casting agency. They were actual local villagers from Morocco. Huston recruited people from remote areas, many of whom had never seen a movie camera before. This created both challenges and opportunities. The challenges were obvious: language barriers, no acting experience, and confusion about what filmmaking even was. But the opportunities were extraordinary. These men brought genuine reactions and authentic presence to every scene. When they look at Connery's character with awe or fear, there's something in their eyes that professional extras couldn't fake. They weren't acting, they were simply being themselves in surreal circumstances. Huston had to communicate largely through translators and physical demonstration, but the results on screen are undeniable. Yet all this authenticity came with serious problems. Number 8. The film's production was cursed with sandstorms. Morocco might have looked perfect for the film, but Mother Nature had other plans. Multiple massive sandstorms tore through the production, destroying sets that had taken weeks to build, ruining equipment, and making filming completely impossible for days at a time. Crew members described walls of sand appearing on the horizon like something out of a biblical plague, giving them just minutes to protect what they could before everything was buried. These weren't minor delays, they were production-halting disasters that pushed the schedule back by weeks. Insurance companies got nervous, executives back in Hollywood demanded answers, and the crew's morale took serious hits. Some people wanted to pack up and move the production somewhere safer, but Huston refused. He'd waited 20 years for this film, and no amount of sand was going to stop him now. The storms weren't the only financial problem. Number 7. The movie's budget doubled. The film was originally budgeted at a modest $4 million, which seemed reasonable for an adventure film in the mid-1970s. But between the sandstorms, the remote locations, the insistence on authentic costumes and props, and the complex action sequences, costs spiraled out of control. By the time cameras stopped rolling, the budget had ballooned to over $8 million, double what was promised. Studio executives were furious. Double-budget overruns can kill careers and sink studios, especially when there's no guarantee the film will make its money back. But Huston kept pushing, kept demanding more time and resources, kept insisting that compromise would ruin everything. In the end, his stubbornness paid off, but during production, it felt like the film might bankrupt everyone involved. One sequence alone ate up an enormous chunk of that budget. Number 6. The bridge scene took over a month to shoot. That spectacular rope bridge collapse, one of the most memorable action sequences in 1970s cinema, required 5 full weeks to complete. This wasn't a single stunt that could be done in a day. It involved building multiple versions of the bridge at different scales, choreographing the collapse with real actors and miniatures, coordinating camera crews at multiple angles, and somehow making it all look seamless. The scene combined practical stunts, miniature effects, and careful editing, in an era before CGI could fix mistakes or create impossible shots. Everything had to be perfect in camera, which meant endless takes and constant adjustments. The crew members working on that sequence probably never wanted to see another rope bridge in their lives, but the result is a thrilling, visceral sequence that still holds up today. Despite the production nightmares, the film earned recognition. Number 5. It received 4 Oscar nominations. When awards season rolled around, The Man Who Would Be King earned nominations for Best Art Direction, Costume Design, Editing, and Screenplay. These weren't token nominations, they were deserved recognition for exceptional craft in every department. The art direction created an entire believable world. The costumes we've already discussed, the editing made the complex story flow perfectly, and the screenplay adapted Kipling's story brilliantly. Surprisingly, the film didn't win any of those 4 Oscars. It faced stiff competition that year, but many critics and fans felt the Academy overlooked one of the year's finest achievements. Still, the nominations themselves validated Huston's vision and his refusal to compromise. The recognition also helped the film find a wider audience in its theatrical release and beyond. For Huston personally, this film meant even more. Number 4. It revived Huston's career. By the early 1970s, John Huston's reputation had taken serious hits. After making classics like The Maltese Falcon, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and The African Queen, he'd stumbled through the late 1960s with a string of critical and commercial disappointments. Hollywood had started to wonder if the legendary director still had it or if he was just another relic of the old studio system. The Man Who Would Be King silenced all doubts. Critics praised it as a return to form, a reminder that Huston was still one of the greatest adventure filmmakers who ever lived. The film proved he could adapt to new Hollywood while maintaining his classical sensibilities. It gave him credibility and leverage for the final decade of his career, leading to later successes like Prizzi's Honor. Without this film's success, Huston's legacy might have ended on a very different note. One of America's greatest critics certainly recognized its brilliance. Number 3. Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars. Roger Ebert, whose reviews could make or break films, gave The Man Who Would Be King his highest rating. He called it a genuine epic and praised it for capturing the spirit of old-school adventure movies better than any film of its time. Coming from Ebert, who could be brutally honest about even big-budget spectacles, this was extraordinary praise. What Ebert recognized was that Huston had done something increasingly rare in 1970s cinema. He'd made a straightforward adventure film with no cynicism, no irony, just pure storytelling confidence. While other directors were deconstructing genres, Huston simply made the best version of what he loved. Ebert appreciated that purity of vision, and his review helped cement the film's reputation as an instant classic. The film also had a unique literary connection. Number 2. Rudyard Kipling is a character in the film. Here's something you don't see often. The author of the original story appears as a character in the adaptation. Christopher Plummer plays Rudyard Kipling himself, serving as the narrator and framing device for the entire film. Peachy Carnahan stumbles into Kipling's office and tells him this incredible, tragic tale, which Kipling then records. This wasn't just a gimmick, it's actually faithful to how Kipling wrote the original story, as a tale told to him by one of the survivors. Having Kipling as a character adds weight and authenticity, reminding viewers that this wild adventure is rooted in the British imperial experience that Kipling both celebrated and complicated in his writing. Plummer brings gravitas to the role, and his reactions to Peachy's story help guide the audience's emotions. Huston refused to compromise on authenticity in the action scenes too. Number 1. Huston refused to use stunt doubles for realism. Most directors in the 1970s would have used stunt doubles for the dangerous action sequences. It was standard practice and much safer. But Huston insisted that Connery and Caine perform most of their own stunts. He believed audiences could tell the difference, that cutting away to a stunt double's back or using quick edits destroyed the immersion. He wanted wide shots of recognizable faces doing impossible things. This meant both actors dealt with collapsing sets, real gunpowder charges, treacherous mountain climbs, and those infamous bridge scenes. It meant injuries, close calls, and constant danger. But it also meant that when you watch the film, you're seeing Sean Connery and Michael Caine genuinely struggling, genuinely exhausted, genuinely in peril. The performances have an edge of authenticity that's impossible to fake, and it's a huge part of why the film still feels thrilling today. And that authenticity is precisely why this film endures as one of the greatest adventure films ever made, because every frame is soaked in real sweat, real danger, and real artistic obsession. John Huston's 20-year quest to bring Kipling's story to life resulted in something that modern filmmaking, with all its technology and safety protocols, could never quite replicate. It's a testament to what happens when a visionary refuses to compromise, when actors are willing to risk everything for their craft, and when a story is so powerful that it demands to be told. If you love cinema history like this, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment about your favorite adventure film, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the movies, because the real drama is often what happened off-screen.